on everyone? My name's Lucas and welcome to my little studio in LA. Today I'm going to be doing a quick video on a topic that I find really interesting and just kind of a unique thing that Ableton does. So I'm going to essentially walk you through creating some parallel chains or like parallel effect racks in Ableton, and I'm just going to use all stock plugins, and what I'll do is actually I'll upload this exact rack to my website that you can just download for free. So if you're too lazy to even do it yourself, you can just go download it if you want. And essentially the whole thought process behind this is to simulate sort of like sends and returns and auxes like you would use in Pro Tools or like on a mixing console, in a really creative way that you can use in Ableton to come up with some cool sounds. And we're going to be using vocals for now, just because it's a little bit easier to work with, but you could do this for anything, drums, guitar, whatever you want. Now, I should say that Ableton does let you create return tracks. So if you hold Option Command T, you can do a return. And I actually, strangely enough, so these are really cool, and in most DAWs would be a huge aspect of my workflow, but for some reason I don't like the way that they work in Ableton, and I'll show you exactly why. And that is because, so let's say we want to do a delay here, right? This is great, but the thing is sometimes I want to route that through all the effects in my vocal group, but Ableton at this moment doesn't really let you route it anywhere except for master. You could create another track and route it to that and then have that go to your vocal group, but I think that's just like a little bit too much clutter for me. So I find myself not really using return tracks. The other thing that really bothers me about return tracks is you can't import them. Let's say if I go to my Ableton sessions and I want to import session data, it doesn't let you do that. You can only import regular tracks. The return tracks don't show up. But there's some good things about using returns. But anyway, I digress. In this video, we're actually going to be talking about using an audio effect rack to get a similar type of behavior. So I'm going to be working with this vocal. I just have one lead vocal here, and if you just hit Command G, you can create a group and it automatically routes it here. It's also a great thing about Ableton. So here's our vocal track. So I'm going to create an audio effect rack. So what we're doing here is we're going to add delay, reverb, compression, saturation, a few creative effects, actually maybe chorus too. I'll use all stock plugins. You can just load this up on your computer. And what I want to do is I want to have this set up in a parallel type of situation. So what that means is I want to essentially have my dry vocal there and then have these other effects coming in and out like as a parallel effect. I don't want the effects just dumped directly onto my vocal track. So this is why I'm creating this audio effect rack. So if this is a little confusing, just follow me here. I think it'll make a lot of sense in a second. So a really easy one to start with is let's just do reverb. Or actually, let's start with delay, because I think that one is sort of more universally useful. So I'm going to use the echo plugin, and what I'm going to do is I'm just going to drag it right here. It says drag effects right here. So let's view these macros. We don't need to view snapshots for now. We want to view the plugins, and we want to view this. So this is kind of the key that we're going to be, this is what we're going to be working on here. So this little window. So if you right click here, you can hit create chain. So what I'm going to do is this first chain. So since I already dragged this echo here, it automatically creates a chain for you if you just drag. I'm going to do dry like that, and then this one is going to be, let's name it delay. But what I have to do is turn this wet dry knob all the way up. So this dry signal is going to have no effects. It's just going to be our vocal straight up. This one's going to be the delay, which is already all the way wet. And then all we need to do is play with the volume of this chain. So it's like we set up a little mini mixer just on our vocal bus. So it's super cool the way that this works. So this delay is all the way wet here, but all we need to do is increase or decrease the volume here, and this dry is always pretty much going to stay at 0 unless you want to change it for some reason. So just for the sake of organization, let me create a couple chains. So we said we're going to do delay, we're going to do reverb, we're going to do chorus, and let's do saturation, because that's a super handy one to do in parallel. So this is going to be awesome. I'll just probably color code this a little bit just so that it's easier for me. So great, we already dragged our echo in. We're going to dial this in later. I'm just going to turn all this to 0. and I'm going to load up these effects. So here we'll load the hybrid reverb. Cool, hybrid reverb. Just make sure your wet is all the way up on all these. Chorus, let's do, where's the new chorus plugin that they have? And then saturation. So here's our saturator. And like I said, let's just make sure these are all the way wet. This is wet. Cool. So we have delay, reverb, chorus, and saturation. So this is looking really good. And the nice thing about having all these parallel racks is, let's say I want to add a compressor or something to the reverb, or an EQ to the reverb, or whatever. We have a whole separate channel here to work with. So it's really powerful that you can do this. You can do similar stuff like this in other DAWs, but I think this adds, just the way that this is set up, just for me is super creative, and I just think it's a little bit more fun to use than just using return tracks. The only downside is if you have to print down stems and you want to retain some of the effect tracks, which is something we'll talk about probably in another video, but there's workarounds for that, so it's not that big of a deal. But here we go. Let's listen to the vocal and let's start adding these effects and see what's going on.
And I stay.
There's our delay,
reverb,
reverb, chorus, and saturation, which we haven't even really dialed in. So first step, I'm going to label these macros. Okay, so this is kind of the first thing I would do, just so that I don't get confused here. So I need to think about, so we're going to bring these chain volumes up and down. So we need delay, reverb, chorus, and saturation, just literally a mix knob for all of these. So I'm going to label these macros. So we're going to do delay mix. We're going to do reverb mix. We're going, actually we probably don't even really need to write mix. Let me just write chorus and saturation. Let's do drive. I don't know. I don't want it to, I want it to look nice. Okay. So here we are, we got 4, we can color code these so they correspond. So what you do is you hit map, click what you want to map it to, and then do that. And then we're going to do this one to there, and chorus to chorus, and that to that. So now the only thing is, it's kind of crazy. What it does is it goes to plus 6 dB. So we'll probably go to like minus 8 dB, or let's do minus 6. It probably won't even go to 0, to be honest, but I'll do minus 6 for all these, because we obviously don't want the mixer to go up so loud, for most cases. I mean, you can change this if you change your mind about it. So now I can actually hide all this business, and we have these.
And I stay there.
And so yeah, if you click this button, it opens everything up, and then you can, and then this button too to see the effects. So we didn't even dial in any saturation, so let me do that. So let me put this at 6, and soft clip on, so that'll be nice. So let's hear that.
And I stay there.
The only thing with drive that we have to adjust is I want to do a volume compensation. So when the drive mix goes up, I want the output to go down so that it's not getting louder and louder. So what you can see here is we can do saturation output, and we just want it to be 0 to like minus 8 or something. I'll check it to see if it's.
And I stay there.
That's reasonable. We may want actually even more drive. Let me also map the drive so that it increases in drive as you turn it up. So this is going to be really cool, actually, because it's going to modulate multiple things at once. Let's see what that sounds like.
And I stay there.
Cool, but I'm going to have the volume go to minus 12.
And I stay there.
Still seems like, let's see, minus 15.
And I stay there.
What I'm just going to adjust one other thing. So it just occurred to me that this drive knob, let's have this starting at like 6 dB of drive, or maybe like 4. That way it's already driving when you're at 0,
and I
or when you kick in the mix.
stay.
So that's cool. That's really rad. I kind of worked in backwards order here, but let's just dial in these effects just a little bit so that this is easy, so that this is just like easy money. We want this to be sounding really good. So we'll go one by one with delay.
And I stay.
So the first thing I'm going to do, I mean, you could do this a bunch of different ways, but I think a quarter delay is nice. We might actually end up having, I think it would actually really be nice to have like 2 or 3 different delay times here. But just for simplicity for right now, just to get this going, I'm just going to do 1. So you'll have to mess with the delay time if you want to do that.
And I stay.
So I added reverb. I did this like low pass thing. So that's cool.
And I stay.
Could ping pong it.
When she told me I was staying there, I said, don't worry, say.
So that's pretty nice. I like there to be some modulation effects on my delay. I think that's the way to go. Luckily this has reverb here too. Oh, I guess we could add modulation here, but you know what? Straight up, I'm just gonna throw a chorus right before it because I think it's going to be a little bit easier to dial this in, and since we're using included plugins, it shouldn't take too much CPU or anything. I don't know why it's oh sorry, chorus ensemble. I'm just spacey right now for some reason.
And I stay when she told me I was staying there, I said, don't worry, say.
Okay, so we got a nice basic echo sound. Let's mess with this reverb real quick.
And I stay.
So we could do a preset. I think maybe let's not do. I'm just gonna do algorithm.
And I stay. When she told me I was staying there.
I don't like the reverb to be bright.
And I stay when she told me I was staying there, I said, don't worry, say. And I stay when she told me I was staying there.
Okay, so that's not bad. Basically, I just did like a little bit of EQing here. You can change the slope here, so that's cool. I put it to this dark hall. I just kind of want like a digital reverb sound. I don't want it to sound like a room for now, so that's cool. One thing that people might want to do just to go one step further is to throw a sidechain compressor on here. So basically we want the reverb, and actually delay for that matter, we'll dial this in and put it on both. We want this to duck when the vocal hits, so I'll sidechain it to itself, so you'll see what I mean in a second. So
and I stay
so we want the reverb to kind of kick in when he's done singing, type of vibe.
And I stay when she told me I was staying there.
when this is overdone, I think it can sound kind of lousy.
And I stay.
So I don't overdo it.
Yeah.
But let's see what it sounds like on the delay. So this is kind of the idea of side chaining your like effect tails using your actual vocal channel.
And I stay night. Yeah.
So you see that basically when he stops singing, the compressor lets go of it. So for the purposes of this, I think that's pretty sweet. The chorus we'll just dial in real quick.
And I stay night. Yeah. When she told me I was staying there, I said, and I stayed.
Sweet. So the chorus is nice, pretty straightforward to dial in and just
and
drive.
I stayed night. Yeah.
So that's going to be our basic parallel chain. So let me label this basic parallel. And I'll leave the rest for you to work on as you see fit. Now once we're done, we can just hide this, and then I'll show you how to save this too. So we can hit this save button, do it that way. I also just have my own audio effect rack situation here. So what I do is I just drag it in here. This is because it's in a separate folder. Sometimes I want to move this to other computers or whatever. I can put that there. So I'm going to post this on my website. You can just download this for free and just work on it from where it's left off. So this is kind of like, I have numerous of these sort of set up. You can do this with third-party plugins too. We'll probably do another video on that. But basically a bunch of parallel effects that you can use on your vocals, guitar, bass, drums, whatever instrument you want. Saves you the real estate of having a bunch of return tracks. And I think it sounds really sweet, and it's just a fun workflow to use it this way. Automation is really easy for this type of thing too. You can just twiddle the knob and then hit A, and it comes up right here, the last thing that you just did. So you get all these options, you can automate them. It's pretty sweet. So let me know if you found this helpful. Again, my name's Lucas. Check out my channel and leave me some comments if you have any requests for future videos or any feedback, good or bad, because that'll help me make better videos in the future. So thank you. Take care, everyone.